My name is Natalie Russo, and I decided to write my sociology paper on the topic of Barbie and how the Mattel toy company enhanced this global spread. The reason I decided to write this on this topic is because I've always been a huge girly girl, and I've always had multiple Barbies. And I thought it'd be really interesting to see what research is out and see just how it had spread from country to country. And also, my friend from Shanghai, China, had mentioned that the House of Barbie, which is the largest collection of Barbies, was actually open a couple streets down from her. And she had mentioned to me that it was very Americanized, and she also had mentioned that a lot of girls look towards that and try to make themselves look like the Americanized Barbie. So I thought that, just those few things sparked my interest in writing on this topic. So this topic supports many of Ritzer's arguments in what we learned in class and read in Ritzer's Globalization of Nothing. Mattel created the most popular childhood doll, which was Barbie, in 1959, and it can help describe the effects of globalization, display cultural hegemony, and helps explain the overconsumption of nothings throughout the world. Through different marketing strategies and consumption from numerous countries, Mattel has sparked Americanization. Some sociologists will criticize this million-dollar corporation for negatively stereotyping different cultural views and ethnicities when they actually created the international dolls. But despite these controversies, Mattel is still holding strong, and the Barbie still reaches out and manages to win over loyalty of many children around the world. So it all started out with a couple, Ruth and Elliot Handler, who created Mattel in 1945, and they actually took their children on vacation to Europe, where they stumbled across a doll named Bild Lily in Germany, and she held many adult features, and they noticed that these children were so excited to have a doll to play with, and so Ruth became very convinced that bringing something back like this to the United States would be very popular. And Ruth had a younger daughter, and she watched her daughter always play with homemade paper and fabric dolls. And so Elliot and Ruth bought the rights to this German doll, and they recreated her in the U.S. And they wanted to aim more towards the years of 3 to 11. Barbie is the major figurehead of the toy company and has been a part of the fashion toy industry for over 50 years. And the first Barbie doll actually sold for $3. Now it's generally $30 and up. But Ruth had a solid marketing strategy and decided to advertise the doll on television and broadcast to millions of children. And within the first year, they sold 300,000 Barbies. In 1984, that's when the company knew there needed to be new changes made, and they implemented dolls around the world. There was 45 different nationalities that were incorporated, and Mattel made efforts to cover different foreign markets and adapt new skin tones. But the features such as the petite frame and the smaller face with the long eyelashes and makeup remained the same throughout every doll. The only ethnic difference was what the doll was actually wearing, and very few facial features were changed. These superficial changes failed to capture the hearts of some of America's most important consumers, including in India. The Barbie was dressed in a sari, but still had the Americanized look to her, and so she could not achieve mass popularity. And this is an example of how a company has projected the Western ideals of beauty across the world. However, Mattel and Barbie were still becoming very popular throughout many countries, and factories were open in China, Japan, and the UK. And to remain successful, Mattel decided that they needed to conduct more of an assembly line approach to meet up with the demand for these dolls and allow them to be mass-produced. I spent quite a while in my paper describing the three core concepts of globalization and how the Barbie displays each one. The three concepts are capitalism, McDonaldization, and Americanization. In 2001, Mattel shut down its last manufacturing company in Kentucky, and the operations were shifted to Mexico and China, where the cost to pay workers was significantly decreased, and the company could mass produce this object. The factories were open 24 hours a day, 6 days a week, and most of the staff was female and young, and they weren't promised the best working conditions. Most of these workers couldn't even afford a Barbie doll. But they would work for anything at this point, so that is why Mattel sent this off to more low-income, underdeveloped countries. Mattel increased their profits by moving the production to the low-income countries because they avoided certain regulations and hiring young laborers that would make for the smaller income. An additional way that Mattel displays capitalism is due to the intriguing advertisements and the strategies made to grasp different children's attention. They aired on television, they were in children's books, they were in different magazines, and they allowed the company to maintain that solid consumer foundation. And this concept explains how the American ideas, customs, and social patterns broadens around the world and has an impact on many countries. As I previously stated that my friend had told me, a $30 million store was opened in Shanghai, China, named the House of Barbie. It was filled with a huge collection of Barbie dolls, and these stores and products were all controlled by the same industry, operating on the same principles and structured in the same way. So this is something of how we can relate to Ritzer as well, that it would be a non-place filled with non-things and staffed by non-people. And these people were dressed in Barbie costumes who had scripts and were supposed to follow the bubbly personality and bubbly experience for all their customers. In 2013 in Taiwan, a Barbie-themed restaurant called Barbie Cafe opened that supported Barbie t-shirts, sparkly tiaras, and studies actually showed that blonde Barbie became more popular in China and Japan rather than the ethnic dolls created. Childhood over the past century has overall declined craft traditions and a global culture. The phenomenon of children choosing these standard dolls to represent themselves has been developing for several decades. Since the creation of the doll, the toy has been scrutinized for an unrealistic body and materialism. And in 2006, a study was conducted in UK where one of their factories were. And they were seeing the effects on girls from 5 to 8 years, and 162 girls were exposed to the American Barbie doll. And the professors actually discovered that the girls had lower self-esteem and a greater desire for a thin shape. So children are constantly comparing themselves to what they only know as beautiful. And a new trend is sweeping across Chinese culture and is a definite cause of Americanization, where they're striving to have the lighter skin, the blonde hair, and the light eyes. They're walking through towns with umbrellas, avoiding the sun, paying for whitening injections, and purchasing colored contacts to try and tailor themselves to the American culture. So those are all great ideas of Americanization and how it has affected the world. Another concept is McDonaldization, and people working on the assembly line. There's usually 100 people, including seamstresses, designers, painters. They all come together to create this 11-inch doll. It's very fast-paced for maximum efficiency. It's predictable because these products are very alike from one place to the other. And they're all crafted in the pretty pink, crisp box, and they hold the smiling Barbie with sparkly materialistic items. The Barbie doll continues to draw the children in from many different countries. The toy still leads in most popular toy choice among children. With aggressive marketing in foreign countries and descriptive advertising, Mattel will be on top of the market for a while. Assuming the physical look of multiple nationalities and producing dolls that resembled them allowed Mattel to hope for increased profit margin and satisfaction. And this is where they went for the more global approach. But there's a distinctive relationship between globalization of Barbie and the consumer culture. One could argue that the relationship between globalization, and the effects on the cultural and tradition. According to George Ritzer's Globalization of Nothing, these items seem to expand their influence globally by becoming a young girl's new identity and icon. And due to these items' mass production and familiarity, Ritzer would place this toy more towards the nothing end of his continuum. Due to the global spread and international trade of nothings, we will remain noticing cultural changes and differences on how people are affected around the world. The mass production and globalization of these dolls have transformed which was a something into a nothing, and many other products are following this course. Barbie isn't just a toy, but it displays a significant attitude and an idol for young females, and a brand that has exploded over the years. And this toy has been symbolizing American girlhood and still fills the stores through multiple countries. Mattel didn't only create a doll, but created a cultural icon overall.